and Fiscal Review. This will be our most likely, last full Budget Committee hearing. So we will be finalizing our Senate budget as we then move toward our Conference Committee with the Assembly representatives later next week. I believe they're having their counterpart hearing next Wednesday. So work is not quite done. Before we begin, of course, I want to thank our Budget Subcommittee chairs for tireless efforts these past many weeks, daily hearings to review line item by line item all of the different components of the May revise. And so we thank you for your work, and we'll be considering outstanding issues. And I know that our Vice Chairman, Senator Nielsen, would like to say a word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, we are convened today to move this budget along. I would note that recently the legislature has just passed historic legislation, the Rainy Day Fund, which is one of the few really structural positive changes to the budget process in many, many years. One of our problems with this particular budget is accepting a very high revenue figure, higher than we think is realistic, and we're obliging state funds towards that higher figure. That puts us on the pathway to the same problems we've had in the past when we have had some increased revenues. I would not necessarily call them windfall revenues, but revenues a little higher maybe than expected that we can really count on. But I believe that what our expectation here of what we really count on may be too high. Now, the Republicans throughout with the committee, subcommittees and on this committee and on the floor will have their own priorities in the budget, things that we do support. And then there will be things that we don't support. We will acknowledge those. And I thank the chairman for his courtesies and for all the hard work of all of the staff, Republican and Democrat. This is one of the toughest committees in the legislature.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. And let me offer a similar comment. It's always a pleasure to work with you. Not only do I appreciate the expertise and experience you bring to our committee, but also the fashion in which you do your work. It's always a pleasure to work with you. And just to take off on one of your comments, yes, we will be talking about some of our priorities, but I put those priorities in a slightly broader context in that I and we as a committee appreciate the governor's proposing a very significant way for us to address our wall of debt, not just this year, in the years since he's taken office, with a real vision as to how we can retire that wall of debt as soon as possible. We're also attending to our unfunded liabilities in a fashion more quickly than had originally been proposed. Also very worthy, no argument there. Also, now we've agreed upon asking voters to approve a new rainy day fund. Also important. We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. But with regard to these priorities, it's not just priorities. It's our attempt to create our vision as to how we reinvest in the state of California, how we reinvest, how we rebuild a public infrastructure that has been seriously dismantled in the past 10 years. And without some discussion of that and without some consideration of what that vision might be, we're never going to rebuild California. And we will find ourselves at bargain basement rates of investing in our children, in our seniors, in higher education, in our judiciary. The list is long. So we will be having that conversation today, and I know we'll continue that conversation into our conference committee. So with that said, we're going to turn to page 1, start with the State Controller's Office. Welcome, Ms. Bossler. Good to see you. And before you begin, we're going to call our roll.
Leno?
Here.
Nielsen?
Here.
Anderson? Bell?
Here.
Block? Corbett? Hancock? Jackson? Liu? Mitchell? Monning? Morrell? Roth? Torres? We have a quorum.
Thank you. Colleagues, for a quorum. Ms. Bosler, please begin.
Good morning, everyone. Keely Bosler with the Department of Finance. And just wanted to start out by saying that we really look forward to working with the Senate and with the Assembly in the coming weeks to craft a budget that places California on very strong and stable footing, just to follow up on your comments. The first issue here before us is an issue from the governor's budget, base issue related to legal support for the state controller's office related to the 21st Century project. And we actually have reps from the state controller's office here that can provide more information on that.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Lono.
There you go.
Thank you, Chairman Lono and members. Tom Yowell from the State Controller's Office, Chief of Admin and its disbursements. Our request is for $6,529,000 in general fund to support our ongoing legal activities, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
All right. This, of course, everyone's probably least favorite subject, the 21st Century Project. I know, Senator Roth, you have had multiple hearings on this. Do you have any questions or comments you'd like to make? They've all been said. It's all been said. So there's a request for 5 positions.
That's correct, sir.
And you've also requested some budget bill language and control section language. Do you want to explain that?
Correct. The language is required to for us to be able to charge the special funds, which is a portion of our funding strategy. Without that language, we can't continue that funding strategy. We had requested, I think, the language to go through 2017. We saw the recommendation is through 2015. We have no issue with that.
And that extension of the sunset would allow you to assess special funds within the state treasury?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions or other comments from the committee? Senator Nielsen.
Let me ask you, sir, this project, $260 million, and Senator Roth is very expert about it. Of concern to me are the litigation costs. I understand there's $1 million related expenses. They ballooned to, we appropriated $1 million, and that's ballooned to about $7 million. And we don't know exactly from you how much that litigation is going to cost us. This adds $6.5 million. What has the Comptroller's Office done to either deal with this litigation in a more expeditious way or do prospectively litigation prevention so we don't get into these messes? What have you done? Because you're kind of giving you a blank check here, and we're inviting litigants. Oh man, the piggy bank's open. Just we'll keep it coming, and continue the lawsuits extended. What are you doing to put the brakes on it?
Yeah. Well, initially we started to prevent this by working very diligently with the contractor to ensure that he could address any issues as they were arisen. When we went live on the project, there was way more errors in the system than were anticipated, and so we communicated to that vendor what those errors were and hoped that they would remedy those issues. But upon not remedying them, our contract only allowed us really one way of addressing this issue, and that was to sue them because we already went through the cure. They were non-responsive to the cure, where we detailed out every single specific thing that we needed them to accomplish. And when they said no, that's really what we needed to do. So we initiated, before the litigation, actually, we tried arbitration. In our arbitration efforts, again, the SAP failed to step up to the plate and do those things that were required of them of the contract. So that left us with litigation, which is where we are now. We do manage that litigation effort in detail. Our chief counsel works on that. We have a plan. We believe that up to $16 million would be spent from contracted legal vendors up through the point of March or mid 2016. And we've also estimated the cost of winning that. If we win the contract, we could win up to $150 million. Less our cost would be about $135 million to the state that we could use to put that towards the next vendor who would then come in and fix the system and make it work. That's part of why the contract was written in that manner. So to us, the real question was the difference between, well, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. If we didn't follow the suit, it would cost us $26 million just in paying off SAP for the amount that they requested and in our litigation costs to date. But if SAP prevails, we would have to pay $33 million, which is $18 million of their demand and about $15 million in state litigation costs. So the real difference between not suing and suing, we see is about $6.9 million.
Sir, is the Controller's Office represented by Attorney General or outside counsel?
We have a chief counsel, but we also hired outside counsel. We went to the Attorney General's office, and they said that the breadth and depth of this was beyond their abilities in both time or expertise.
That's scary. Breadth and depth, that gets me really nervous. Where in the litigation process then are you? Has it just commenced? Are you 2 years in, deposition? Where are you?
I don't know that I can speak to that.
Tony Davidson, Project Director, State Controller's Office. We filed suit in November. They finally responded to that, so a countersuit has been filed. Currently, their Public Record Act requests going crazy, and we're pulling together. That's the requirement for the staff to provide the legal support. So we're going through discoveries, opening up, and then we'll be, I'm sure, in deposition very soon.
Okay. Thank you for the clarifications. At least we know more about it.
You're welcome.
Good questions. Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Senator Morell.
Thank you, sir. Another question, too. So in the meantime, did you think this, did I hear you correctly, you expect this case to be completed by mid-2016?
That's correct.
But we do have an antiquated system. So is there anything else in the meantime we're doing to resolve this? Because one of my concerns is if this system fails, which it sounds like it could, we compound the problem.
Sure.
Yeah, Tony Davidson, State Controller's Office. So over the years since the project was initiated, a number of items have been undertaken to strengthen and support the system. So I don't want anyone thinking that, it's going to crash and burn. It's stabilized. There's backups in place. They go through disaster recovery exercises. While the technology is certainly antiquated, it can still be supported, certainly in the short term. And again, it's not a burning platform. It does need to be replaced. And the State Controller, through the business side of the house, are looking at what they can do in small steps, business-wise, to make things ensured that this system will stay up and running until we can get rolling again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Jackson.
Yes, I think rather than ask about lawsuits, I think the real question is why don't we ever get this IT right? I think that when you have a dispute, you have to have lawsuits. That's just the nature of our democratic system. We have 3 branches of government, and people have the right to redress their grievances through the judiciary as well as coming to legislators or replacing legislators. So that's not my concern, although the cost of litigation, of course, is a concern. The delays are a concern, and a lot of them have to do with the fundamental lack of resources for the judiciary. Obviously, if we could reduce the cost of litigation by doing it in-house, or if the Attorney General actually had staff enough to do it, but they don't have staff enough to do it, so we have to go to outside counsel. But the real question is, why are we why are we so consistently in the mess where we cannot do IT right? This is just another example. So my concern is, what are we doing to improve that system so we don't find ourselves here virtually every year and in some new department or agency where we find ourselves having spent enormous amounts of money that we cannot recoup for whatever reasons, and that the people of the state end up paying a fortune for things that simply do not work.
Thank you, Senator. It is a topic that the administration spends a considerable amount of time thinking about and taking actions that we hope will avoid the 21st century, for lack of a better word, mess that ended up ensuing. So I think that one of the proposals in our May revision that supports that is a stronger project management focus for our California Technology Agency. realizing that a lot of the places where these projects break down have to do with really basics, really managing contracts, managing vendors to meet the terms of those contracts. And when they don't, early on, taking action and doing, taking actions that will repair what is quickly going off track. I think, with the 21st Century project, a lot of what went off track was really, some problems that ended up festering and not being addressed early on, and then led to the worst possible outcome, which is litigation. So we're really focused on avoiding that in the future, getting the most effective performance out of the contracts that we do end up entering into for what are really necessary IT projects to modernize the state's aging IT infrastructure.
Senator Roth.
I'm often a critic on this subject, but I want to give credit where credit is due. I think the administration and Department of Finance and the agency and the Department of Technology certainly have stepped up. And as Bosler referenced, just for my colleagues' reference, is an effort through the May revision to establish a project management office in the Department of Technology, and that did come through the Budget Subcommittee, and they're in the process of creating that fledgling work section, which has promise of collecting the best and the brightest so that in the future we can have that talent pool available to manage projects across agencies and departments statewide, as I understand it. And I think given what we've heard in a variety of settings and in a variety of hearings, that's an admirable effort, one that we should support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator Roth. Senator Anderson.
I just have, following up, I have a couple questions. What was the original amount of the contract with SAP? $89. And then how long could this lawsuit last?
We expect it to be completed by March or early 2016.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Colleagues, thanks for good questions, important statements. I don't think there's anyone here who wants to see these kinds of experiences repeated. And I'm encouraged, Senator Roth, by your comments from the work you've done in your subcommittee that we're on a more enlightened path as we go forward. The issue before us, of course, is much narrower. It has to do with the positions requested by the State Controller's Office and the extension of this sunset date. I'm going to suggest that with regard to that extension to 2017, that we might extend it a year to 2015 so that you can come back, report, give us an update. We have continued legislative oversight. So I'm going to take a motion from Senator Block that we approve the requested funds, positions, and adopted proposed budget bill language and control section, and then modify trailer bill language, approve requested authority to assess special funds within state treasury for costs attributable to the replacement of the state payroll disbursement system, but until June 30th, 2015. So with that, we will call the roll.
Leno?
Aye.
Nielsen?
No.
Anderson? No. Bell?
Aye.
Block?
Aye.
Corbett? Aye. Hancock? Jackson? Aye. Lou? Mitchell? Aye. Monning?
Aye.
Morrell? Roth?
Aye.
Torres? That's 9-2.
9-2. We do have sufficient votes. Colleagues stepped out for a moment, so we're going to put that on call. Moving on to page 2. Thank you very much, Mr. Yao. California Department of Insurance, the issue being federal mental health parity.
Sure. This is a legislative proposal, not part of our proposal, for the Department of Insurance related to implementing federal mental health parity laws. I'm assuming this is mirroring a proposal we did have in the May revise related to the Department of Managed Health Care.
Mr. Sisney, do you have anything you can offer us on this?
I think that this is, as Ms. Bossler mentioned, related to that DMHC proposal, but this and one later in your agenda for DMHC would add new positions to ensure that these departments have the resources necessary to enforce the new federal regulations related to mental health and substance abuse parity.
Mr. Assistant, can you give us any this would be paid by fees, correct? And what's the state of the balance?
Chris Ryan, Department of Finance.
Yes, Mr. Ryan.
It's a fee, insurance fund is the fund, and these are fees that are charged to the insurance companies. It will create, the 10 positions will create a pressure on the fund to increase the fee in the out years. So we believe the current fund balance won't support the 10 positions.
Have you done an assessment as to how many positions it could?
We have not. We've looked at the pressure of the 10 positions, and we know there's not enough money. The current balance is approximately 1.2 on the unrestricted revenues, and the total fund balance at the end of the budget year is about $5 million.
And the last time the fees were raised?
I believe that last year, and Department of Insurance would have to correct me, I think it was last year
13.
and the year before that the fee was increased.
And your calculations are based on those increased rates?
Yes. They've accounted for those increased rates and then added the 10 positions in and projected out into the future.
Senator Bell?
The federal government passed the Kennedy-Wellstone-Domenici Mental Health Parity Act in 2009, and since then has developed a series of implementation regulations, finally concluding with the final implementation regulations in November of last year. Federal government has set timelines for states to implement the Federal Parity Act and is acting to receive the full implementation by January of 2015. We're not going to make that in California. We have fallen significantly behind because we have not devoted, in my opinion, early and sufficient attention to this. And this budget proposal attempts to put us on at least a schedule that we can implement the act and not have the imposition of the kinds of things that the federal government can do if you don't implement the act, which is they have the ability to take over the implementation of the Parity Act. They can impose rejection of funds for California. There's other kinds of impositions. One of the more serious issues is lacking implementation that exposes the state to lawsuits. And I think penny wise, pound foolish, I think it's very important that both the Department of Insurance, Department of Managed Health Care implement the Parity Act in a schedule that's reasonable. People have been waiting a long time. Millions of Californians are affected by this, and I would move the proposal.
Senator Nielsen, anyone else have thoughts on this? Go right ahead.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I so respect Senator Bell's remarks, and I have sympathy with very many things of what he said. But one of the concerns I have, we have a deluge of federal regulations on all of the state of California and its agencies. And this is but a recognition and an indexing, if you will, of every time there's a federal regulation, the agencies staff up. That's a spiral that's been going on a long time. It's not new. But I cannot support this. I think the governor made a proper decision, and I'm not convinced that there is any justification for 10 full-time PYs. We need to have fewer federal regulations, and I understand that the state does have some flexibility in dealing with it. I believe that would be sufficient.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Senator Hancock.
Yeah, I'm going to support this motion because as we look at the budget, as we look at certainly the area of corrections, which I've been focusing on in the budget, mental health is at the root of so many of our other problems, that to take advantage of the federal legislation, to do the surveys so we can find out how our health plans are complying with federal law, and get the annual report, I think it's going to be very worthwhile. I'm not sure either about 10 positions, 7 positions, 12 positions, whatever. I think we could relook at that, but to get started doing this work and to indicate that we're going to achieve the goals of the federal legislation, I think would serve us well in the long term.
Thank you, Senator Hancock. I see there's some folks here who would like to speak publicly on this. So before we get to you, just let me clarify what Senator Bell's motion is, and that would be to add 10 positions to ensure that the Department of Insurance has the resources necessary to enforce federally adopted regulations, and additionally to adopt placeholder trailer bill language to firstly require the department to begin the focused surveys of health plans compliance with federal mental health parity beginning January 1st, 2016. And these would be annual surveys for at least 5 years, and then additionally to provide the legislature an annual report on the survey findings, including analysis of timely access to services, equity of copays and deductibles, and treatment limitations beginning August 1st, 2015. So that is Senator Bell's motion. Happy to take public comment. If you could be as succinct as possible, we would appreciate it, but we welcome your thoughts.
Certainly. Mr. Chairman, Randall Hager for the California Psychiatric Association, and also for those members of the California Coalition for Mental Health who are not behind me. We want to indicate our support for this proposal and its aims. We think it would help make the overall enforcement of parity much stronger. And so we would hope that some address of the issue could be made by this committee so we can move forward with a strengthening of the ability of the departments to do their work. I also want to add in that John Lovell for the California Police Chiefs is not able to be here, and he asked me to indicate his support and their support as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Tom Renfrey with the County Alcohol and Drug Program Administrators. We strongly support Senator Bell's proposal. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair and members, Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California Chapter, want to thank Senator Bell for this proposal, and we strongly support it.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Mr. Chair and members, Amanda Levy on behalf of the California Psychological Association, also in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Levy.
Mr. Chair and members, my name is Khalif Osaga. I'm the Legislation and Public Policy Director for NAMI California. We're also in very strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Radigan on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Santa Clara County, here in strong support.
Thank you, Ms. Radigan.
Kelly Brooks Lindsay on behalf of the California State Association of Counties. We're also here today in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tahira Cunningham on behalf of the California Pan-Ethnic Health Network, also in strong support.
Thank you, Ms. Cunningham.
Paul Raines, President of St. Joseph's Behavioral Health Center in Stockton, and we fully support this.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. Robert Harrell with the Insurance Commissioner's Office, here to answer questions and also just follow up on the comments that Finance made about the fund condition statement. That is accurate. We do worry about cost pressures without fee authority. Are happy to work with the respective staff and the administration on appropriate trailer bill language to effectuate this. Thank you.
One question. Between the Department of Managed Health Care and the Department of Insurance, you have split authority and responsibilities. Of the universe we're talking about, do you know what percentage would impact your office?
Not off the top of my head, Mr. Chairman.
Less than half?
We are less than half. I would note, however, in this area generally, of mental health parity, we have been particularly active. And so, for example, when Director Riard and I testified before Senator Steinberg's Select Committee with you and Senator Bell and others in attendance, when you look at things like independent medical review data, that was specific, obviously, to autism and ABA therapy. The numbers actually are relatively even, which suggests that despite the gap in number of covered lives, that we have been pretty active in this area, and the numbers are relatively, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they're closer to parity, if you will, no pun intended, than they would be otherwise based on covered lives.
I understand. Thank you. That's helpful. So, colleagues, anyone else here to speak publicly on this? And Ms. Bosler, my guess is that this would, should this pass today, likely go to conference. I don't know that the Assembly has this agendized in any case. Colleagues, I'll be supporting this. I'm not certain that we know exactly what the right numbers might be, and we're hearing from Finance that this, the fund may be pressured in ways unnecessary. So should it go to conference, I think we can use the time between now and then to continue to work on this and fine-tune it if necessary, work with the Department of Insurance to get what the split is between managed health care and its office.
Yeah, and I would be amiss if I didn't mention just, we're just getting a look at this trailer bill concept here today, and it is a pretty significant policy. And so, you know, I think given all of the things we need to get done before June 15th, I think it may be more appropriate to go through a policy process. But we're going to take a look at everything that's approved here today and get back to you.
Very good. Call the roll, please.
Leno?
Aye.
Nielsen?
No.
Anderson?
Aye.
Bell?
Aye.
Berryhill? Block?
Aye.
Corbett? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Jackson? Aye. Liu? Mitchell? Aye. Monning?
Aye.
Morrell? Roth?
Aye.
Torres? 11
to 2. The motion passes 11 to 2.